Have you ever wondered how much control God really has over the world and our lives? As we delve into the realm of theological doctrines, we encounter the concept of God's active decree. This profound idea pertains to the divine, positive, and intentional actions that God takes in the world. At the heart of this doctrine is the belief that God is not a passive observer, but an active participant in the world. Every event, every outcome, every moment is under his direct influence and control. Nothing happens outside of God's active will or without his purpose. Colossians 1:16 and 17 say, "For by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him, and he is before all things, and in him all things hold together." Colossians 1:16 and 17. This is not a matter of random chance or luck, but a divine orchestration where God's sovereignty reigns supreme. Every beat of our hearts, every breath we take, is a testament to his active decree. So enter the realm of theological exploration as we unpack the concept of God's active decree. Let's delve deeper and unravel the mysteries that surround this fascinating doctrine. The active decree of God is not a simple concept to grasp, it's multifaceted and profound. To understand this theological doctrine, let's break it down into smaller pieces. At its core, the active decree of God pertains to his deliberate and sovereign decisions about what will come to pass. This means that God intentionally and actively determines every event that will occur in the universe. He is not a passive observer, but rather an active participant in shaping the course of history. Now you might ask, what does it mean that God's decisions are sovereign? Sovereignty, in this context, refers to God's supreme authority and power. It means that he is not subject to any external influence or constraint. His decisions are made independently, without needing approval or permission from any other being. His will is supreme, and his decisions are final. This leads us to the next part of the active decree, God's direct involvement and control over all events and outcomes. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens outside of God's active will or without his purpose. If we think of God's predestining of events in terms of a timeline, the end must always come first, and the beginning must be last. God declares the end from the start. His ultimate purposes in history, both in redemption and in damnation, are the very first stop in understanding why and how he orders everything that comes before. From the fluttering of a butterfly's wings to the rise and fall of great empires, from the birth of a child to the death of a star, every event, big or small, is under God's control. He is intimately involved in the workings of the universe, down to the minutest detail. This understanding can bring comfort and assurance, for if every event is under God's active decree, then nothing is random or meaningless. Even in times of suffering and uncertainty, we can find solace in the knowledge that God is in control, and that he is working all things for his glory and our good. Therefore, every event, every moment, is a result of God's active decree. But what does God's active decree look like in practice? Let's venture into the realm of examples to illuminate this theological concept. Take, for instance, the biblical story of Joseph. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, Joseph ends up in Egypt. Despite his trials, he rises to prominence in Pharaoh's court, eventually saving his family from famine. This narrative showcases how God's active decree functions. Even in adversity, God's purpose was being fulfilled. Or consider a hypothetical scenario. Suppose there's a person who's been laid off from his job. It may seem like a setback, but perhaps it's God's active decree in motion, leading him towards a different path that aligns more with his talents and potential. Such instances underscore the powerful truth that nothing happens outside of God's active will. Even in situations that seem chaotic or painful, there's a divine plan unfolding. So in every situation, God's active decree is at work, shaping the course of events. Isaiah 46, 9 through 11 says, "Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Calling a ravenous bird from the east, the man that executeth my counsel from a far country. Yea, I have spoken it. I will also bring it to pass. I have purposed it, I will also do it. Understanding God's active decree opens up a new perspective on life and events. We've journeyed through the intricate details of this theological concept, shedding light on the profound impact of God's deliberate and sovereign decisions, which shape the course of the world as we know it. To distill our exploration, let's recall the key points. God's active decree refers to his positive and intentional actions, his proactive role in the unfolding of events. It's the divine blueprint, outlining not just what could happen, but what will come to pass. This doctrine underscores God's supreme control over all events and outcomes. Everything, from the flutter of a butterfly's wings to the rise and fall of empires, occurs within his active will, guided by his purpose. Remember, according to the doctrine of God's active decree, nothing happens outside of his active will or without his purpose. The glorious light of the gospel can only be known by the miracle of regeneration. The truth of God's single active decree is so integral to the light that it cannot be comprehended without it. God's active decree includes the plan for salvation through Christ's death on the cross. That is to say, God ordained and foreordained the crucifixion of Jesus as part of his sovereign plan to provide a way for humanity to be reconciled with him. Christ's death on the cross is seen as the ultimate expression of God's love and mercy, as well as his justice. It satisfies the demands of divine justice by providing a means for the forgiveness of sins while upholding God's righteous standards.